It's a time! A massive package from China time, and it's going to be crazy. Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in. In today's video we are going to be doing a chit chat about this game box. And this is a quite interesting one. It comes with overall better controllers, or different controllers now. But I'm curious about the controller quality, but also the overall experience, what it is with this, let's say, game box. They're asking all kinds of prices for this, because I've been seeing this for over $100, but also under it. It's kind of weird when it comes to that. So we do have this external switch for on and off. And we're having a power supply and some more stuff like an HDMI cable. But what I'm getting is a quite interesting configuration. So first of all, this is just a 12 volt 5 amp say power supply, and yeah, I always like wonder, is this really 5 amp, because it almost weighs nothing. So we do have the two dongles, and this is a different configuration where sometimes we have these PlayStation 5 knockoff controls that we don't have. It has like this PlayStation 5 going on with the black and white colors. But yeah, when it comes to this, we both have the separate dongle. In here we're having a battery compartment of the AAA battery. Let's see if I can put in my rechargeable battery. Oh, wait, I have a brain for it. It's the wrong one. It's the wrong one. Okay, so AAA batteries. Yeah, okay, wicked. So no rechargeable AAA batteries here, but you're going to be putting them in here. We'll give you a couple of hours playtime, depending on, let's say, yeah, I think the biggest problem is like if you're going to be using cheap batteries, but rechargeable would be so much more convenient. It's quite comfortable, that is one thing to be sure, and I'm very glad they finally stepped off like the PlayStation 2 knockoff controllers. So the feel itself, it's kind of nice, no like say extreme wiggle buttons. Yes, and let's do a little bit of testing later on to see what we're getting. What I mentioned before, we have this weird thing that this thing will automatically turn on and off. If you're going to be plugging in the power supply, they're giving you an external switch. So they're using all kinds of old parts. We have seen these mini PC things, and you know, I was really wondering like, what are we getting with this? Is this the same, let's say, cheap old crap shenanigans, or is this going to be something different? So quick look, you can just see in the inside there is something going on over here. They still have this ugly sticker on it for if you want to use the manual game system tutorial, no sound. So you can scan the QR codes and find your solution there. So this is a completely 3D printed case, nothing fancy. This thing is sticking out, and the USB over here, HDMI, and an Ethernet or RJ45 connection. So the configuration is kind of weird, but it also looks kind of cool, to be honest. But with configuration, I mean particularly looking at the system also too, if you're looking at how it actually going to be putting on your desk. So if having like some PlayStation 5 vibes going on, you would say it's going to be positioned like that. But the weird thing is that the connections are on top. So is that me, or is that going to be like an epic fail of 3D printing? You would expect to have the connection at the back, so we can put it like that. However, this is what it's going to be. Of course, you can always like lay it flat, but the main problem with that is you need to make sure that you're not covering up this part because of the ventilation. But let's get into the software and let's see what we're getting with this. So with this newer generation of controllers, we also have a different configuration if you want to power it on. So the older ones had like this on and off switch over here, but this is not the case. I'm guessing it will automatically turn off by not using it for some time. Holding the home button will activate the controller, and the two dots will indicate that's connected to the dongle itself. The machine itself runs on Batocera and will boot up into the hard drive that's built in. So when it comes to, let's say, emulation, yeah, the performance, we're going to be testing a couple of devices. I did notice sometimes it needs to respin the hard drive, and there is no SSD inside. That would be so significant better than, let's say, an old hard drive. But they're using it to keep costs actually low with this, so over the production costs, and to make a little bit more money in the end. So when it comes to the PC engine and all kinds of stuff like 8-bit system, I'm not afraid of that. That will run fine. I think one of the performance boosts we will see is the N64. So we do have a GameCube going on, but this is most of the time not compatible with these older chips. About the older chips. So let's see if we can get ourselves in, let's say, the menu over here. But let's press start, and in here we find the main menu. We can mess around with all kinds of configuration in combination with the controller and Bluetooth settings. But for now we're going to be checking out the system settings. information, and the reason why is very simple: to see what's inside of this thing. So it comes indeed with a 500 GB hard drive, or at least like 405 gigs. And system usage, you can see everything is still, and we do have like a little bit of room left here, so I'm guessing we can maybe even update it if you want to. Model number is called Skybay. And what is interesting, this thing runs on a CPU called the Intel Celeron CPU 3965U. So that is actually a little bit faster and than the previous model we've reviewed. That was really using an old, like a 1000 series. But 45 Celsius of temperature, idle. I don't see any, let's say, active cooling, so there's just purely passive cooling. But that's it. Having OpenGL 3.0, because this is old school tech. But let's get into some gaming and let's see what we're actually getting with this. Mentioned before, like when it comes to, let's say, these systems like Mega Drive, they will run perfectly. I love the way how this actually looks. It's very fancy. The unfortunate part about it, if you have like a lot of games on here, it's going to be quite difficult to search. However, we're having all kinds of different systems like Sega Dreamcast. There's no pictures here, so that's a little bit of a sloppy job. Naomi system does have like some pictures. Neo Geo. So that looks absolutely great. And of course, PlayStation 2 is going to be something I'm going to be testing out. See if you do have like an okay performance in here, because it's going to be quite, like say, challenging for the system, because PlayStation 2 is quite demanding, and the same goes for PlayStation Portable. But we have like with PlayStation Portable, what I find quite interesting to see, look into, like how the overall performance will be, because with PlayStation Portable we had like these cheaper game boxes, always problems, but this PC can have like a little bit better performance for your money. So starting off with some PC Engine, and this is one of those systems that run perfectly on these, let's say, basic game boxes. And a lot of stuff can actually play PlayStation and other kind of products, and PC Engine is nothing different. So what is cool about this game box, if you're getting into some handhelds, you can just actually see we have all the features, even having special colors that we can choose. So that's kind of cool. And also having the bezel. And the bezel makes it more authentic to the original aspect ratio than the shenanigans that we have seen with those cheaper game boxes that has like super widescreen of Game Boy games that looks completely hideous. So that's kind of cool, and again, emulation performance is just overall great for the basic stuff like handhelds, 8-bit, 16-bit, you name it. Okay, the only thing is like my controller does struggle in general when it comes to connectivity. That's kind of weird. So moving on to some Sega 32X that runs also without any problems whatsoever. With swapping games, I swapped the batteries in the controller and I don't have any connection problems anymore with the controller itself. So it's quite sensitive when it comes to older batteries, so you need to get yourself a fresh pair or rechargeable ones and charge them fully. Otherwise you do have some overall general problems. Besides the controllers, I'm quite overall satisfied with them. But take consideration that this thing, and that's a little bit downside, doesn't have any rumble built in. But let's go with some old school with some Mordor Combat One. And not to forget with the Sega CD add-on. I love the Sega CD to play on my original CD, but it's fun to revisit these games. Oh, the Sega CD version was so bad. We're still running on native resolution and having the widescreen hack enabled. This is absolutely awesome to play some Sega Dreamcast on this device. So this is a system that also runs on those cheaper game boxes now. However, the overall performance is slightly better with Batocera and a mini PC. Well, I did see like the S905 X3 chips like really struggle with some Sega Dreamcast games. So far I've tested out all of the games run without any problem whatsoever. But let's push it to the limit with some Dead Alive 2 through the Sega Naomi system. This is one of those games that doesn't run great, having like 30 FPS per second, with even the simple games on, let's say, the S105 X3 chips. But so far, we're getting into the game. You can just see we have no problem whatsoever. The D-pad is very responsive. I can do this move without any problem. So when it comes to overall emulation, Sega Dreamcast, that is absolutely great on native resolution. I will not even try to push it to high resolutions if it's possible, because it will only like have a big problem, or at least that will have a problem with the overall, let's say, frames per second. So I would just leave it as it is. It looks great, and we also got full 60 FPS that we can actually play. I am on a roll, man. Come on, bring it on. Pa! Let's go. Next one. Oh, now we're getting more challenging. Now we're going to get my ass whooped. Oh yeah. This is a game I've been playing so much on different systems, including the PlayStation 2 variant. This is so much fun. Oh, I'm getting my ass kicked now. And go! But Sega Saturn, if you're going to be looking into some less demanding games, two-dimensional stuff, for example this awesome old-school retro game, you can just see that we do have an overall better performance where some of the games are playable. How do I actually drop the bomb? That's how it is. But this is just one of those great examples depending on what kind of game you're going to be playing. So it's going to be a hit or miss what it is to the Sega Saturn. So I'm guessing if you want to play fighting games, stuff like that, that will run okay. So when it comes to Sega Saturn, I was hoping to get an overall good performance here, but you can see it struggles big time with 46 frames per second, 47, and this is not the way how you want to experience those old school games. So this is more, let's say the Die Hard Arcade is a very cool game I've personally never played back in the day, so it's like revisiting something I've never known of. But let's check out a different game. But how about the arcade stuff? So when it comes to arcade, the old school MAME, but also Neo Geo, this will run just fine. And we can have a lot of fun with these old school games. So when it comes to the more demanding stuff, so if you want to play some Tekken MAME, there is going to be having a little bit of a struggling still. And this is simply to do because some of the, let's say, games are quite demanding, like in Tekken Tag MAME version. And we're still using really old tech when it comes to the main board itself. I've been testing it out on many different systems, but most of them, if you're having an old i3, i5, that has like an overall better performance chip-wise. So in that case, we're also going to be having an overall better performance when they're more demanding games. I just get killed like twice. Why does the audio also go like 20 times louder? Now, that would be something that we need to adjust. However, if you're going to get into Dolphin Blue game, so this is a game that runs horrible most of these like game boxes, and particularly the older ones. But you can see that we have like perfect emulation performance with native resolution on this older game box. I think so that are like the significant improvements that we just wanted to see with the old Android game boxes with emulation. So for the N64 test, we're going to be choosing Cruise in the USA. And this is a simple reason because this is a system, or at least the system with this particular game has so many problems. But getting with this cheap game box, so far, no problems, no stuttering or whatsoever. So we do have great overall emulation performance on native resolution. So I do keep saying myself, like say, repeat myself with native resolution because some of the system we've been testing out, think about, let's say, old school Dell or Lenovo PCs that have the option even to upscale a little bit to 720 or 1080p. But that's not the case with these very old PCs. But overall emulation performance is great and you can just enjoy yourselves the N64 game. Man, Cruise in the USA is so much fun. I also played this on my original N64. However, I just want to move on to another N64 game because that's another great game. And for me, one of the best shmups, or shmups, sorry, I mean shoot 'em ups or shooters, whatever. Let's get to it. GoldenEye 007. Oh man, I've been playing this game back in the day so much. And that's simply because I just loved it so much when it comes to the overall gameplay. So the configuration of the controls is so much better than the original N64 controller. But okay, so everything seems to be configured correctly. Okay, so the left trigger is the shoot button. Ooh, a minor hiccup, but it's forgivable. Oh, they reversed the rest joystick. Where did he go? Nobody knows. So playing through, let's say, the GameCube games, So we're having a Soul Calibur that is like demanding, but not like the most demanding game. Just wanted to see what actually we can do with this. So noticed some stutters, but actually when I'm playing through the game, you can see it started to work out a little bit better. And it is indeed playable when it comes to, let's say, this particular game. So it's interesting to see how the overall performance is compared with the Sega Saturn. So GameCube is possible to play, but it also demands what kind of game you actually want to play. So far, Soul Calibur, no problem. Only in the beginning that I didn't record, we had some minor hiccups. But beside that, it's absolutely great. But I just wanted to check out if you're going to be playing a different game that is more demanding. Same story, it stutters like crazy in the beginning, but getting through the game, the overall performance is surprisingly good. So this is quite interesting to see what we can actually do with such an old, let's say, mini PC. And again, of course, also how good the emulator is, and combined with like how much power it's actually going to be needing. But I'm quite surprised to see that we can actually play this F-Zero GX game with minor stuttering only in the beginning. So when it comes to also PlayStation systems, we can play a lot of different systems. However, PlayStation 1 can be played on many game sticks now. So you don't need to spend like quite a lot of money on a mini PC. The annoying thing they keep doing is removing the audio to have a little bit of saved up space, or a lot of saved up space, so we can slap more games on the same kind of storage. Oh man, I hate it, because without the music, there is no soul in the game. But the emulation performance is great, and I think you can even upscale it if you want to with PlayStation 1. But so far I can see it's on native resolution. Just wanted to see if we can actually save, so that function also seems to be working. So that is absolutely great. However, sometimes it did have like a problem with some of the system, but you can see this game does have all the audios included, so there is no problem there. So I just wanted to point out that this is a problem of a certain game in the list, and I did notice it with a couple of them. D-pad analog stick seem to be working fine, and great 60 FPS performance. But let's push this thing to the limit with some PlayStation 2 emulation. So PlayStation 3 is not even here, and it's great that they didn't even add the platform, because it makes no sense putting PlayStation 3 on this. This is like a no-brainer that doesn't run at all. However, PlayStation 2, it's going to be a hit or miss. And you can see that it struggles throughout the game. It runs really slow. Did even notice a lot of screen tearing. But this thing looks, oh man, this runs like 25 frames per second or some kind. No. So PlayStation 2 is just too much for these really old chips they're using inside of these mini PCs. So PlayStation 2 would be another platform they should have just removed. And don't say that it actually has the option to emulate PlayStation 2, because that's just a freaking lie. And yes, you can try your luck with some two-dimensional stuff that we have tried also with Sega Saturn, and you can just see that it runs. Yeah, that's what happens. You know, it's going to be a hit or miss, because some of the three-dimensional stuff is unplayable with this. But if having two-dimensional stuff, there's the option to actually play. So that's kind of cool. So some games will run on PlayStation 2, but the struggles that we had with this cheaper Gamebox and N64 now have the same situation with some more demanding systems like PlayStation 2, Sega Saturn, and etc. PlayStation Portable. So when it comes to that, let's see how it is when it comes to like the settings. OpenGL, 1 times PlayStation Portable resolution. Oh man, frame skipping too. Let's put it to 1, just for fun, to see what happens. And that's it. So everything has been actually like shut down. We can make a quick save here if you want to. But let's get into some old school racing. Oh yeah, this brings back some memories. But what I want to chit chat about is the settings. So I've been messing with it actually when I'm recording this. So we have putting the, let's say, not only the frames per second on, but what we're going to be doing is shutting down all kinds of stuff, including the frame skip. Yep, they have been disabled. So we can run this on full speed now. So when it comes to some Need for Speed, this runs without any problem whatsoever. So yeah, there is with PlayStation Portable, we do have the option to actually play now these games So that's absolutely awesome. You can always try to do a little bit of scaling if you have like a less demanding game, but so far this is what we're getting. And we do have the option to play PlayStation Portable now on this cheaper game box. But let's get into some different games. So PlayStation Portable, if you're having the minis, they will run just fine. I did notice some screen tearing in the beginning. Yeah, there we have. We do have like a lot of screen tearing going on. So there is an option that we need to manage to get rid of it. Let's go to the home button, settings. Let's see what I did over here. VSync, frame skipping off. You know, there's a lot of stuff that is still on. That's kind of weird. Okay. Continue. But we need to be fixing a lot of issues because this is not the way how you actually want to play. Can also be doing the problem that we're having a wrong emulator or an old emulator. But the performance of PlayStation Portable is quite good. So we have been testing all kinds of different devices now, and the overall performance is absolutely great on even the higher end stuff. So I'm quite surprised to see how much performance we're getting with, let's say, the PlayStation Portable and PlayStation 2. But you can see where it like very, let's say, struggles with many games, don't run like it should be. And of course with MAME, it's kind of weird that we have like only 55 frames per second with this particular game. However, there is so many cool stuff we can play with an old school mini PC. And the question is, of course, can it run Doom? Oh yeah. So we have a lot of ports. I think the old school games, Doom, Quake, Wolfenstein 3D, a lot of cool stuff also on the handhelds nowadays. And this is absolutely a lot of fun to play these games. Man, I love Doom. Which remains also, where's the shooting button? Oh, there we go. But how about the internal parts? Let's do a quick teardown and just do a quick peek in the inside. So performance wise, I am quite surprised how good it actually runs with this old school CPU GPU combination. So I must give them some extra kudos for trying, you know, putting so much effort in making a case. And most of these mini PC are running on old tech. They're just grabbing from the shelf. However, there are a couple of things already mentioned before. It's like it's kind of weird where they put the, let's say, connection of this device. Actually, they're on top. This makes no sense whatsoever. But I think this has just simply to do with the construction of the main board. So when I remove the 4 screws are all the same length, so I can't mess it up. So this is just a very nice printed and very sturdy case. And whoa, this is maybe the weirdest mainboard I have ever seen. And why do I say that? This thing does have like a connection or an PC Express connection, like a graphics card. Okay, so we need to remove these over here. This is stuck. I think they're glued it on, so there was no way of getting that loose. But we know already what kind of specs it is when we're just checking the Batocera. So what I can do is remove this plastic, and when removing this, we can just get a peek in the inside. I do wonder, like we do have a 500GB hard drive. That is one thing to be sure, but the only thing I do want to know is like what kind of quality they're using. Alright, so we only need to remove 3 of them. So at the back we're finding the RAM module, and let's see, does this thing actually have dual channel? No, it almost is kind of weird. So the PCB does support a second socket, but there is not implemented. So using this Tigo 4GB, so that's not even a lot of dust, but there's some really old school stuff over here. They using, oh, this is interesting, they're even using some converter that I personally never been using myself. You can slap it into the SATA and converting it to a normal SATA cable, and then they're slapping on an old hard drive. And yeah, there's some prehistoric 500GB Western Digital Blue. You can see that this thing is really old. We cannot really see how many hours that has been spinning time, but I would not be surprised that it's going to be a lot. But the case itself, I used some tape to put this thing in positioning. But yeah, this is all old school tech. But what is more interesting, like what's going on with the connection, where they actually been using it for. The BIOS battery has been there, so you can just remove it if there's going to be having a problem. You can replace it fairly easy. So for maintenance wise, you can do a lot of stuff. You cannot remove the cooler, but that's actually what we're getting in the inside. And there is no production date that I've so far seen stating what kind of board. It just says what kind of board it is, but yeah, this is clear that this is old school stuff or tech they're just grabbing from the shelf, creating, slapping some Batocera on and making something out of it. And seems to be working just fine in most places when it comes to emulation. I must say that they are creative when it comes to making, let's say, old hardware into something new. And the overall performance are quite surprisingly good. Particularly when you're looking at the, let's say, the higher end stuff. The controllers, where they play quite comfortable, they are absolutely horrible with connectivity. I've been having so many issues. So connectivity, nope, this is not going to be a good controller for overall gaming experience. So when it comes to the case itself and the emulation performance, we do have some struggles with Sega Saturn and some other devices, and of course upscaling is out of the question with an old piece of hardware like this. However, if you're going to be paying under, like say, $99 or something like that, I think it can be a very good overall deal with this old hardware. Nevertheless, thank you all for watching, consider subscribing, and it will be great to see you in the next video.